last time.
Dumb in a blue car.
Are you a cop?
Don't worry about what I am, because I'm a state agent.
There are certain members of law enforcement that are out to get me. I personally have been arrested 3 times over the past year.
But you have handcuffs.
I don't deserve to go to prison for impersonating a law enforcement officer.
Jeremy, how are you?
Good.
Do you want to tell your side of this story?
Yes, sir.
What do you wear on your duty belt?
Radio. I have a tourniquet, flashlight.
You have handcuffs on here.
No, we don't.
No,
Sometimes.
I've seen you arrested with handcuffs where they've taken handcuffs off of your duty belt.
Some of my men and women do wear
No,
handcuffs.
You, not
Yes.
your men and women, you.
That's correct.
You have no authority to handcuff anyone.
On a funeral escort, that is absolutely correct.
We have a weapon here. This is a non-lethal weapon, right?
Yes, sir.
This is a pepper ball, and I snapped a picture of a law enforcement badge here at LAPD and put it up beside your badge. And if you're taking great pains to not be confused with law enforcement,
Right.
it seems like you took great pains to replicate a law enforcement badge.
But in Florida, that's not a law enforcement style badge. In Florida, a 5-point star is highly illegal. A Florida Highway Patrol badge would be highly illegal. And or a badge with an eagle top, which is what's in the statute, is illegal. So we don't have a badge that contains an eagle. We don't have a 5-point star, and we're not using a Florida Highway Patrol shield.
This is an iconic symbol of law enforcement. This is your motorcycle versus a police motorcycle, and your uniform versus a real police uniform.
Right. Our unit says Metro State on it, and it is a BMW, not a Harley. Our vehicle has our names very clearly.
Let's take a look at some of your asking them to get out of that funeral procession.
Sure.
What are you doing? What does it look like I'm doing, dumb? Get over before you find out.
Stop pretending you're a police officer.
Listen, I know what I'm allowed to do and what I'm not allowed to do. What you need to do is figure it out before you start talking and cutting us off.
I'm not cutting anyone.
Go ahead and pull your little phone out. Call the 911 right
I'm
now.
not gonna call 911.
Tell them it's on video, too.
Seriously?
Yes, sir.
First off, you're absolutely directing traffic.
Are you okay?
I'm fair. Are you law enforcement?
I'm asking you a question. Are you okay?
If you're not law enforcement, I'm not stopping for you.
The case that's kind of the wellspring of all of these charges is an allegation that Mr. DeWitt crossed a double yellow line. As you know, he's equipped with video. Interestingly, the video of him was confiscated by law enforcement and then disappeared. As a result of seizing that video, they've now charged him with multiple cases, multiple counts, going back and looking through his videos to determine that he's a serial impersonator, as they like to say.
Well, they found a video with your encounter with someone in a Porsche.
Those interactions have nothing to do with the funeral escort whatsoever. There's no funeral escort whatsoever. We were done long time before that. We were on our way back to the office when the gentleman almost hit us and then flipped us off and told us because we were nobodies, he could drive the way he was and almost run me over. So what you don't see in that video was before that encounter even happened, we almost had a serious accident where then we're sitting a little bit away and I drive up to him and I say, hey, that would be a road rage situation. I say to him, you almost hit me before changing your lanes.
Well,
At
let's
no
see
time
how-
were
let's,
those, yeah,
let's
sure.
see how you chatted him up about that.
You must have missed that it's 45 through there, and then you use the turning lane to cut through traffic. I understand you're in a nice car and everything, but let's be a little more mature the way you drive. Let's drive the right way then.
Are you a cop?
Don't worry about what I am, because I'm a state agent. So
Yeah, well,
what you
you're
need to
not.
do is make sure you're doing the right thing, boy. Nah, he ain't about that life. He's with that he ain't about that life.
Boy,
Yeah,
that's real nice.
yeah, I know.
Real professional.
The way you almost hit me, boy,
Oh, yeah?
is the way it's professional.
You're not a cop.
You want to fight?
Violate rule too.
How's that?
Don't even act like stopping me.
I didn't pull you over. Did I make a traffic on you, boy? Yeah. You're lucky I don't get out. Come on, let's go, bitch. Get out. Yeah, let's go. Go, come on. Boy,
That's
get
what
out.
you're gonna do?
I'm calling you out, bitch.
Come on, follow me.
That's what I thought.
Let's go.
Yeah, get out anytime. I got off my bike.
Let's go.
Okay,
Follow me.
where you want to go? Right there. We go straight, bitch.
I'm right over
Lights green, fuck. Go ahead.
Really?
You ride a motorcycle, don't you? Somebody told me that you're an avid motorcycle rider and you love motorcycles.
Yeah.
So let me ask you,
I
have
don't
you ever
believe
been
I've ever
almost
had
hit?
one in that way.
Have you ever been almost hit though, for no reason?
Oh,
Because
I've been hit.
okay, so have I. And I've actually was in a coma and I actually flatlined, and then they brought me back and I had amnesia for months and I was in a coma for a very long time. And so when I ride, especially when people are being disrespectful and they almost hit me, granted I was in my uniform that day and I was doing my escorts before and I was moving on to go back to the office, for somebody to almost cut me off and then hit me and not then flick me off and tell me he doesn't give a who we are, that's not right. And I understand that I happened to be in my uniform at that time, but as you can see, Dr. Phil, in the reflection of his windows, at no time were my lights on, at no time did I use any kind of horn or siren or anything of that nature. I approached a gentleman just like anyone else in an intersection that just almost caused an accident and tell him, hey, you almost hit me. What are you doing? Why are you driving that way? Just like anyone else in the United States that gets almost to an accident and they're pissed off because they're not driving professionally or
Right
properly.
up to the point where they say, I'm a state agent,
When he said, are you a police officer? I say, no.
which was your opportunity to clarify that and say, no, I am not.
Right.
What I am is a pissed off citizen that you almost ran over, but you didn't. You had an opportunity to clarify, and instead you said, I am a state agent. You went through a 45 mile an hour back there. You're talking like a cop.
Right.
And then you're telling him you're a state agent. He's like, oh, I'm dealing with a state agent here.
No, he knew I wasn't law enforcement. In fact, he even says that multiple times in the video. And then he threatens to attack me when we're sitting in an intersection. However, his threats were never in any way, shape, or form pursued, even though threatening somebody on video to attack somebody is a charge in Florida.
He says he does a good job, that these are isolated incidences. Well, we're going to ask a funeral director that's worked with him for years just exactly what she has to say. We'll tell you right after the break.
You must have missed that it's 45 through there, and then you use the turning lane to cut through traffic. I understand you're in a nice car and everything, but let's be a little more mature the way you drive. Let's drive the right way then.
Are you a cop?
Don't worry about what I am, because I'm a state agent. So
Yeah, well,
what you
you're
need to
not.
do is make sure you're doing the right thing, boy. Nah, he ain't about that life. He's with that he ain't about that life.
Boy,
Yeah,
that's real nice.
yeah, I know.
Real professional.
The way you almost hit me, boy,
Oh, yeah?
is the way it's professional.
You're not a cop.
You want to fight?
Violate rule too.
How's that?
Don't even act like stopping me.
I didn't pull you over. Did I make a traffic on you, boy? Yeah. You're lucky I don't get out. Come on, let's go, bitch. Get out. There, let's go. No, come on. Boy,
That's
get
what
out.
you wanna do?
I'm calling you out, bitch.
Come on, follow me.
That's what I thought.
Let's go.
Yeah, get out anytime. I got off my bike.
Let's go.
Okay,
Follow me.
where you want to go? Right there. We go straight, bitch.
I'm right over
Lights green, fuck.
Come on.
Go ahead.
Really?
You ride a motorcycle, don't you? Somebody told me that you're an avid motorcycle rider and you love motorcycles.
Yeah.
So let me ask you,
I
have
don't
you ever
believe
been
I've ever
almost
had
hit?
one in that way.
Have you ever been almost hit though, for no reason?
Oh,
Because
I've been hit.
okay, so have I. And I've actually was in a coma and I actually flatlined, and then they brought me back and I had amnesia for months and I was in a coma for a very long time. And so when I ride, especially when people are being disrespectful and they almost hit me, granted I was in my uniform that day and I was doing my escorts before and I was moving on to go back to the office, for somebody to almost cut me off and then hit me and not then flick me off and tell me he doesn't give a who we are, that's not right. And I understand that I happened to be in my uniform at that time, but as you can see, Dr. Phil, in the reflection of his windows, at no time were my lights on, at no time did I use any kind of horn or siren or anything of that nature. I approached a gentleman just like anyone else in an intersection that just almost caused an accident and tell him, hey, you almost hit me. What are you doing? Why are you driving that way? Just like anyone else in the United States that gets almost to an accident and they're pissed off because they're not driving professionally or
Right
properly.
up to the point where they say, I'm a state agent.
When he said, are you a police officer? I say, no.
Which was your opportunity to clarify that and say, no, I am not.
Right.
What I am is a pissed off citizen that you almost ran over, but you didn't. You had an opportunity to clarify, and instead you said, I am a state agent. You went through a 45 mile an hour back there. You're talking like a cop.
Right.
And then you're telling him you're a state agent. He's like, oh, I'm dealing with a state agent here.
No, he knew I wasn't law enforcement. In fact, he even says that multiple times in the video. And then he threatens to attack me when we're sitting in an intersection. However, his threats were never in any way, shape, or form pursued, even though threatening somebody on video to attack somebody is a charge in Florida.
That's not a firearm, Sergeant.
Let's go.
That's a less lethal, Sergeant. So legally for the per Florida statute, I'm allowed to carry that, Sergeant. 970. Go ahead and look it up, Sergeant. The vehicle's not stolen, Sergeant. I have the registration for the vehicle, Sergeant. I have the registration for the vehicle, Sergeant. Sergeant, get your lieutenant, please.
There is no lieutenant. I'm
Then
in.
get a captain.
There is no captain.
Then
I'm in.
get somebody that outranks you, Sergeant.
Nobody
I have
outranks me.
Well, you have handcuffs.
Make sure you have your body cameras running.
Body cameras are running. Why you have handcuffs?
We've been talking to Jeremy, owner of Metro State Special Service, a funeral escort company, and his attorney, Amir. Now, Jeremy has been accused of impersonating an officer, but says he is a dedicated motorcycle funeral escort with loyal customers. Well, one of them is joining us today. Now, Sandra is a funeral director and a business owner and says she has worked side by side with Jeremy for 7 years. So, Sandra, what's been your experience in working with Jeremy and his company?
Well, I personally have never had any issues with Jeremy himself or with Metro State Escort Company as far as taking my families from the churches, to the cemeteries. I've never had any issues whatsoever. Always been professional. Uniform has always been professional. I've never seen him out of character address any of my family members or people that they have escorted to the cemetery. So that's my personal
Right.
issue with that.
You've never been on the back of the motorcycle with him. What is your reaction to some of the videos that you're seeing?
Well, that you're absolutely correct. I've never been on the back of the motorcycle, and this is the first time that I've seen that, and I'm very shocked to see that. Very disappointed because Jeremy knows, I'm all about being professional with people in the public, definitely families that we service. So I will say that I'm very disappointed.
Yeah. Now, have you ever wondered why he's wearing handcuffs and carrying a baton and a utility belt? And he says it's not like a police officer, but it's either like a star trooper or a police something. It's certainly a utility belt like you would see on a police officer. He carries handcuffs, right?
I didn't know he carried handcuffs. And to answer the question about the batons and stuff, that's something that I really never, took issue to because I pay him to escort my families from point A to point B, and that's what he does. So
I also have a statement from Reverend Henry Postle. He's a funeral director, owner of Postle's Mortuary, LLC. And he says, we have been privileged to work with Jeremy DeWitt and Metro State Escort Company for the past 4 years. He and his team are always professional, courteous, and consistent. They are in no way aggressive or make themselves out to be anything more than a professional escorting company. Escorting a funeral procession is not as easy as it looks. They make our firm look good, and we will continue to use them for years to come for our escorting needs. So these are two people that combined you've worked with for 11 years.
Yes, sir.
And their experience with you has been nothing but positive, good, professional, and they've you've gotten the job done, gotten people where they need to be when they need to be there during very difficult and trying times.
The most important is the safety of the family
Yeah.
in the worst part of their life at that time.
Yeah, and I've been in funeral processions and seen lunchy people just pull in and pull out and
Turn their
all
high
of
beams
that.
and hazards on so they can run a few red lights because
Yeah,
they got to get to
it's,
Starbucks faster.
Yeah, I've seen it. I've seen it happen.
Over the course of time, I've learned that there's a lot of haters for myself. There's even a guy that started an online website that has been receiving the leaked videos of my body camera that was confiscated by law enforcement. There's even an online channel of a gentleman by the name of Sergeant Blue Bacon. He's interviewed me once.
He started his own company so he could escort funerals.
He even created a parody musical of some of the videos that are out there on social media platforms saying that they were of me. However, a great deal of those videos weren't even true to that fact.
He claims he acts within the law, but that's highly disputable.
I shake my head wondering to myself, don't people have things better to do or worry about the ongoing pandemic that's out there?
Over the past 10 years, Jeremy has been able to get out of trouble in a way that makes him think that he's not doing anything wrong. And now that 10 years worth of trouble has caught up with him, everything's crashing down around him. I have a background in military police. I'm a private investigator. It's my job to find out the facts. I started a social media page where I'm known as Sergeant Blue Bacon, which allowed me to explain legal aspects of complicated things to people all across the world. Earlier this year, I discovered a YouTube channel that had acquired footage of Jeremy DeWitt and his company in action. He himself is quite a character.
Dumb in a blue car.
I posted the videos on my YouTube channel, and I had the chance to interview Jeremy.
I started to allow my security guys to start wearing tasers and the pepper ball weapons.
One of the things that I found very interesting when interviewing him was his insistence that he present a hard target by dressing similarly to a police officer. He's going to great lengths to portray himself as law enforcement so that he isn't messed with. Jeremy is impersonating a police officer. Jeremy is a narcissist and a compulsive liar. When I think about what he's doing, I feel pretty angry. The way he dresses, the shirt, the badge, he wears a bulletproof vest, carries a baton. He plays the part well. Most people think that he is a police officer. In fact, when they ask him if he is a police officer, he doesn't usually say no.
Law enforcement, identify yourself to me. What agency?
We're with Metro State, and we're a state-certified agency.
He says that he's a state-certified agent, which doesn't really clear it up. It's clear that he isn't law enforcement because of the way he acts.
Get the over.
Stop pretending you're a police officer.
He's challenging people to fight him in the middle of the street if they don't obey his rules, which he's not allowed to issue by law.
Come on, let's go, bitch! Get out your car!
Jeremy's got a chip on his shoulder with law enforcement. When Jeremy interacts with law enforcement, he has the statute that protects some of his actions memorized.
Per Florida Statute 960, we can have that.
And he sort of uses it to push them around. Jeremy needs to stop acting like law enforcement because it's a crime.
James, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
It bothered you that he's not, when people ask him, are you a law enforcement officer, he deflects and then says, I'm a state agent.
Sure.
State agency and state agent.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would like to start this by saying, looking at that uniform, nothing on there is illegal individually. The totality of the circumstances is where this becomes a problem. If I'm driving down the road and I see someone in an intersection wearing that, I'm not from Florida, so I can't speak for that, but that specifically, if I saw someone wearing that, stopping traffic, directing them, and I thought, well, that certainly looks like a police officer, because standing, 15, 20 feet away from it, I wouldn't be able to say, no, that's not a law enforcement uniform, having been law enforcement. And I went, hey, excuse me, sir, are you a police officer? And he said, I'm a state-certified agent. Well, that tells me nothing.
I think if you take that badge and you look at it, does it have a building on it that looks like the building that's on a lot of law enforcement badges? Yes. Does it have the same patterns and everything? Yes. It is something that might be used in Hollywood in a movie to represent to people that this is a law enforcement officer. And I think most people look at this and say that you've gotten as close to the edge as you can get without crossing the line, in hopes that people will assume that you're a law enforcement officer so that you can enjoy the gravity that comes with presenting yourself that way without crossing the line. And you seem to be badge heavy when you even don't really have a badge, but that you're badge heavy. This guy's terrific, right?
Yes, he's actually very professional.
Okay, so you have no problems with him as an examiner, or the test?
No, sir.
It all went professional and
Yeah, he was
everything, so
very sharp.
good, bad, or indifferent, you have no issues
Not at all.
with it whatsoever. Gil, when it comes to polygraph exams, you're also a countermeasures expert. Explain what countermeasures are.
Countermeasures are behaviors that you can do during specific questions on the exam to enhance physiology on those areas and appear as a truthful individual. That's why we have activity sensors on the floor for your feet, activity sensors on the chair for core movements, and the rubber tubes that go over your chest and your stomach do record upper body movements, upper body activities. So if you were to try to manipulate any of those, we actually have the sensors that tell us this data is true, this data is not true.
Did that play into the test yesterday?
Yes, it did.
But ultimately, with your expertise and the screening devices, were you able to get a clean test?
I did.
Okay. Well, let's look at the results. Question number one, have you knowingly misused your given funeral escort rights to appear as someone empowered by law enforcement? And your answer was?
No.
2, have you falsely presented yourself to a citizen as someone empowered by law enforcement? And your answer was?
No.
3, during the course of your duties, have you knowingly used authority exclusively given to law enforcement officers? And your answer was?
No.
No. So you answered no to all 3 questions.
Yes.
And what was the result?
It is my opinion that Mr. DeWitt was being deceptive to the target questions.
Okay, and numerically, what would he have to have scored to have come out deceptive?
This methodology calls for a -3 or less in order to be in the deceptive range. Mr. DeWitt scored at a -37.
So this was not a close call.
This was not a close call.
At no time was I lying. I know that I was very nervous. I know that this is my life that we're fighting for, but I can't answer that. I know I wasn't lying. I'm not being deceptive. I understand what he's saying about the way I was, my posture and the way I was reacting is what the deception is from, but I'm not being deceptive.
Well, you asked for the test.
Yeah.
And I brought you the best.
Yes.
And you agreed that he's the best.
Very good.
I think you expected to have a different result on the polygraph.
Yes, sir.
I don't think you're seeing this situation clearly. I don't think you have real insight into this situation and circumstance. And I think you're putting yourself in a difficult situation by the way you're presenting yourself, by the relationship that you have that's adversarial with law enforcement. And I think it's been going on for a long, long time because I think you've got a chip on your shoulder. Right this very minute, if you could see yourself through my eyes,
Sure.
You would feel a whole lot better about yourself.
I appreciate that.
And you've got to make the decision at some point that you're okay. I hate to see you blow your life up, blow your business up, blow your family livelihood up because you're playing into this not being enough. You know, you are enough. I mean, you got a beautiful family. But you've got to stop trying to justify and rationalize and explain away these things and own them, fix them, and move on.
Yes.
And I'm willing to get you help to do that with if you're willing to.
Of
to take the help and do it.
A funeral escort accused of impersonating a police officer.
We're with Metro State.
You are an escort.
Would you not want me to make sure that your family's absolutely safe?
That is the clumsiest effort to deflect I've ever seen in my life.
Next, Dr. Phil. Check your local listings.